Hi, Macadonic. Welcome to episode 7 of the web marketing series. In today's episode, we're going to have one happy thing and one sad thing. So let's start with the happy thing, and then we'll talk about the sad thing next. The happy thing is that this week was a decent week in sales. It actually felt like what it used to before I had all my search penalties. So in short, I had more days of sales than without. So I had one sale on Monday, one on Tuesday, and then two on Thursday. It was a really great feeling. By contrast, I just kind of want to point this out. By contrast, most months more look like what November was. So if I look at November, I had a sale on October 30th, and then it wasn't until 11/6 that I had my first sale. And then it was a full 7 days after that, 10 days, on the 16th, that I had another sale. Then it was 7 days after that, and then another 3 days, and then that was it until December 10th. So 4 sales stretched very, very long across the month. It was a tough one. Whereas here we had 4 sales in the last week. And so you can't help but feel a little bit positive about that. The problem, and this is kind of where we get into the sad news, is I know for a fact here that my search ranking isn't improving. As you can see here, I have, there's a little uptick here, but as you can see, just over the last 3 months here, you can see that my search, especially clicks per day, hasn't improved basically at all. I kind of have this weird ceiling right here where it's like I can never get more than 35 or 40 clicks per day, or actually 30 clicks per day. And by the way, I'm kind of actually curious. Sorry about the sidebar here, but I've always kind of wondered this. When I don't have a penalty, when I kind of have good ranking, my peaks are always much more varied. Whereas whenever I have these really low ranks, it always seems like I peg out, like with things like this, where I can never quite reach 30 clicks ever, right? Like it's always limited, which I always found that really strange. And you also notice that I always have these really bizarre things where my top hits are always followed by a short drop then, or a sharp drop afterwards. And I've always been confused by that. So I just wonder if anybody else experiences things like this, because I don't know what the heck that means. But what I do know though is that as I look at my clicks through the month here, there hasn't been any market improvement or falling at all. It just seems like business as usual. So part of me then wants to say, well, great, I'm doing something right with something, but the numbers don't show it as far as organic search goes. So then I started looking at paid search. I figured, okay, well, clearly my paid search is starting to work. But unfortunately, 2 things have kind of disproved that so far. So the first is looking at my actual paid search traffic here by going into Google Analytics, going to acquisition, campaigns, paid keywords. I, for example, looked at this week's paid keywords right here. And I looked at starting with the 14th. So I went to content drill down and I did my little 2-dimensional search here and I found that click. And I looked at it and I said, okay, well, here's a paid search click. It came in, they spent about 33 seconds on the landing page. Then they went to one of these 2 pages, either Store or Express for WordPress. And then finally they exited on reporting. The key though is that this user rate here spent a decent amount of time on the site. In fact, this at almost 15 minutes on the store page is actually really high. So I felt really good about that. But then I got sad because I looked at the 15th and that's a completely different story. So here, if we go to our paid search, you can see that. So 0 time on the site, 100% bounce rate. So at very minimum, they didn't look at more than one page. And as far as this is concerned, they didn't spend any time on the page either. So that bummed me out. And then the other thing that bummed me out is I looked at my next click on the 16th. And again, I was just kind of doing this by cross-referencing what my clicks were. We find, unfortunately, the exact same thing. I had one paid search click, and it was for 0 and 0. So I don't know what this is, but it's not good because I paid money for that. I'm not paying a ton right now, but I'm paid 76 cents, and that is a garbage click right there. And so I know that my organic search isn't any better. And I know that at least a third of the 9 clicks that I've had so far, because these aren't the only 2. There's actually one from earlier in the month that was just 0, 0, 0s. I know at least a third of my 9 organic search clicks have been bunk just from the data. It's starting to look like my paid search isn't doing anything for me either. And just to be sure though, and this still isn't completed, but just to be sure, I sent out an email to the 5 users that I gained this month, including the 4 from this week. And I asked them very simply, how did you find out about rec forms? Was it an organic click? Was it an ad click, etc.? And of those 5 users, I've gotten 2 back so far, and neither of them have been, yes, I clicked on an ad. So far it is looking like the ad spend is not really doing a whole lot for me. And so this uptick that I've had, which has felt awesome, has given me purpose and like it's so cool, seems like it's more of a fluke at this point than anything else. So that's kind of where we're at. So where does this lead us next? Well, at this point, we are starting to see a trend with some of these keywords where we're getting junk clicks. And what that's a big problem, because right now the ad spend that I'm doing here isn't enough to sustain me as far as I can tell. Like this doesn't, say I've been getting any conversions from this. So in order to actually hopefully gain some conversions, I'd actually have to start spending some more money on my bids to like actually show up more times. But if I do that and I still get these junk clicks, well, I'm literally throwing money away at that point, right? So let's say I started bidding $2.62 to show up for Webform software. Well, if I keep getting these junk clicks, I'm just throwing money away. I know it's only $2.62, but trust me, every little bit helps. So what I've done is this. So this is our big marking point here, and I got to wrap this up because I'm going long. But so what I've done is I have changed all my keywords to go from broad match to phrase match. And the thing is, you're going to see this because this is, again, not my first merry-go-round here, but what we're going to see now is that our impressions are going to go way down. So right now we already have very few impressions, but we're going to get even fewer now because what may be happening with these junk clicks right here is that somebody who searched for form builder, and I just bring this up because I remember this once, a form builder is also something that's used in the construction industry. So they'll use like form builders to build like foundations for houses. So maybe somebody typed in form builder and they saw my ad and they just clicked on it. I don't know why, but they clicked on it and they're like, web form software? No, it's not what I want. And they backed up immediately. Maybe that's what's happening here. And so if that's the case, then I can't be even remotely by accident be paying for those clicks. So by making it all these very specific phrase match clicks right here, this is going to make sure that you had to have clicked this in, typed this in for that to be your search. So we're going to see if that works. Now, obviously, because we've done this, we're going to get way fewer impressions. And it could be to the point where we get almost no impressions, which is then going to create this vicious cycle of, well, maybe I should add more keywords. You start adding more keywords, but you're always going to be below the first page bid. So then you're going to start bidding more. And it just, oh man, this turns into a mess. But like I say, we're trying to do this good this time. So I'm just going to do very slowly, one step at a time here. We're going to set this now to be these phrase matches. And we're going to see what happens over the next 2 weeks. We're going to see if that makes a difference. I'm not going to change my bids. We're just going to see what happens. Now, actually, I won't say anymore for right now because there's a couple other things I want to cover, but you know what? I'm going too long. It's almost the holidays. Go out there, have fun. I still have hope here. I really, really do. But so far, this has been a little bit of a bust as far as advertising goes. But I will tease the next episode. One of the responses that I got from from one of my new users was an interesting channel that I hadn't thought of before. So maybe we've got some other opportunities that we can explore. Because after all, that's part of this. AdWords is only one avenue that we can try to explore. Obviously, there are others. And so we want to hit all of them up. So that's what we got for today. Hopefully, that hasn't been too much of a downer. But I guess that's advertising, right? It's ups and downs. So hopefully I'll see you in the next episode where we will talk about our new bidding strategy and the results, hopefully, of that survey that I was talking about as well. So thanks for joining me and have a good one.